Welcome back, sports fans. Hopefully everybody had a fun week, and boy, oh boy, do we got a lot of stuff to cover, so I will get right to it. First off, my pick for the top scoring player in all of fantasy football, I said Joe Burrow, the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. And he started off okay. They were playing Jacksonville. He already had one TD pass. And then all of a sudden, they got a lot of pressure, and he got sacked. And then he got up, and he was kind of walking kind of funny. You know, I'm not a toe guy, but all of a sudden they say he's got turf toe, and he's out for the whole rest of the game. So forget about him as my top scoring pick. We're going to go into more detail about turf toe in the special bonus section. But for right now, we'll put Joe Burrow to the side, and we'll talk about who I'm going to pick this week to be the top scoring guy. And first off, can you believe that the Packers, after they shut down the Lions, the Lions didn't even score a TD until the very end. The Lions then score 52 points against the Chicago Bears. I mean, are they even a team? But that's their opponent that I'm going to pick this week is the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. Against the Bears, he is going to be the top scoring fantasy football player for the Daily Double. Last week was challenging. In fact, I think I'll call it the reverse Daily Double because I predicted that Josh Jacobs would get 100 yards rushing for the game. He didn't get it, but he did get a TD for the 10th week in a row. And then I said, because there's always a good thing and a bad thing. And the bad thing was that Washington Commanders would get 100 yards rushing in the first half. And the Packer defense was just too tough for them to do that. So I got a reverse Daily Double last week. Hopefully I don't have too many more of those through the rest of the season. But this week I'm going to say both the Wisconsin Badgers and the Green Bay Packers are going to win, and both are going to win by at least 7 points. That's the good thing. The bad thing is, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, they did beat the Massachusetts Minutemen 47-7 last week. But this week they go on the road against Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and even though they're the favorite, they're not going to win. So that's the second half of the Daily Double, which is the negative. Hawks aren't going to win. Badgers and Packers are going to win. So should be a good Daily Double for us. And now the no-brainer selection of the week. Last week, I introduced and talked to everyone about Jake Tonjes and what he did for the San Francisco 49ers, score the touchdown, and that he would be the top selected player in the top 5. And just to kind of go over some statistics, he was ranked 101 and before last week's game, and then after the game and leading up to the following week, he improved to 28 out of over 100 tight ends. And his ownership or rostership went up from a significant mark from 0.001% to 2.4%. And there was not another player in the league that had that type of increase. And he responded with, let's see here, get his stats right, 4 receptions, 5 targets, and 31 yards. So that was a pretty good, accurate no-brainer. And this week's no-brainer, I'm going to select. I've already said that the Packers are going to win by at least 7, but their over-under is 41.5, and I think it's definitely going to be under. It's going to be a defensive battle, but I'm going to say the Packers are going to win. The total points will be less than 41. If I had to take a wild guess, I'd say 21-10, maybe 24-10, but under 41. That's the no-brainer. This week's special bonus section is going to be about turf toe. I had picked earlier in the week talking about Joe Burrows. All of a sudden he gets sacked. He's walking kind of funny, and they say he's got turf toe, and he's going to be out 3 months. So what the heck is turf toe? So I had to go and research and find a podiatrist, which is like a foot guy, and figure out, okay, what's going on. Before I was going to talk to him, I had to kind of, I'm not a toe guy, but I had to educate myself. So, if this was your foot, you got the big toe and you got the pinky toe. But what are the three middle guys called? I was like, I got to call them something. And when I'm talking to the doctor, I got to find out what toe we're talking about. So I said, well, I could go big toe, Manny, Mo, and Jack, and the little toe. But, a lot of people, they don't know who Manny, Mo, and Jack is. I gotta come up with a name that the people will remember. So I thought about tic-tac-toe. So big toe, tic-toe, tac-toe, toe-toe, and pinky toe. But the toe-toe thing kind of worried me because, I start talking about toe-toe, and then they're going to say, oh, Annie M and Dorothy, and they'll be thinking I'm talking about the Wizard of Oz. So that was out. That part was out. So I got to come up with it. What are three names? Oh, I got it. Big toe, Curly, Larry, Mo, and pinky toe. So that's what we're doing. So I call the podiatrist. I start talking to him and say, hey, what's this turf toe thing? And how can a guy possibly be out for like 3 months? I find out that it's the big toe. So it's turf big toe is what he has. And that's probably where most of the time people get turf toe is with the big toe. So he has it. It's kind of like a stretch or a tear. He's going to need surgery, and it's all because they play on artificial turf. What the heck is that? Packers. Don't go to artificial turf. We can't afford to have anybody out for 3 months with this stupid turf toe. So the moral of the story here on our bonus section is don't go with the artificial turf. Let's avoid the turf toe, and then that way we can keep our players healthy. All right? That's another wrap for this week. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Check us on Spotify, YouTube, and, all the other social media networks. We should have a great week of football this week. And see you on Tuesday. I'll kind of give you a filtered good guy update in the middle of the week, but see you on Tuesday.